Hello, everyone. I'm psychic medium Parul Khanna, and I am so excited to welcome Lorraine Appleyard. She is the founder of Soul Light Solutions. Lorraine is a natural born seer and a spiritual medium who brings years of experience in clairvoyance, energy healing, and intuitive guidance. Through her connection to the spirit and your energy field, she helps to uncover emotional blocks, past life patterns, and messages. She brings in messages from the past loved ones. She's a great tarot reader and a Reiki master. She offers deep healing on every level. Lorraine's work, I feel personally, is soulful, powerful, and heart led. And I can't wait for you to experience this wisdom she brings in. So let's straight away dive in. Welcome, Lorraine, to the show.
Oh, Parul, thank you so much. And I loved your introduction. What caught me was that you felt that my work was soulful. And that is meaningful to me because that's exactly what I strive for. So the fact that that's what resonated with you and what's hit home, I'm greatly appreciative of that. So that's wonderful. Thank you for having me here to chat with you today.
My pleasure. And Lorraine, when we now to start the podcast, first thing that I would like very much to know that what was that first, you can say, the moment or the experience in your life that confirmed to you that mediumship is real and it's going to be your life's work?
That's a good question. Thank you. I had experiences as a young child that I didn't know were of mediumship, but I understood that I was having a spiritual experience. Um, I've the most significant story that really put me on this path was as a young child one night when I was unable to sleep because I used to get really bad growing pains. Um, and my mum and dad would sort of rub my legs on the night to make me feel better. Well, this one night it was really extraordinarily painful. And my mum and dad, they didn't wake up. I had gone out sort of looking for them. They didn't wake up. And I'd gone back to my room and I was rubbing my legs and I was praying. And my mum had taught me prayer. She was raised Catholic. And so I was praying. And in that moment, I felt something occur within the room, a shift of energy. I'll say that it felt or saw a golden light, and I just had this sense of presence. Um, and I didn't really try to define that presence, if you understand what I mean, but I just was very aware of the
Yes.
experience. And then shortly after, I fell asleep. It was like prayers answered. And so that particular experience stayed with me and it just planted a seed within my mind as to what was that and the purpose of it. Right? It made me very aware that there was something beyond the physical world that was much closer than we may have thought. And then I continued to have experiences as a young person with visions. Um, I had a very strong vision, which I knew was guidance for me as to
Okay.
what I should be sort of adhering to. It was a spiritual message. Um,
Okay.
and then I would hear things. So I would continue to get visions and I'd hear things. And what I would hear, it would come as a result of an inner question. So whenever I would
Okay.
ask a question in this sort of contemplative state, I would get a response. And it's like, I know that's not coming from my mind. I know that that's not me, this young child that's, in grade 4, grade 5 at this time when I started having more experiences. Um, and with that, it fueled a desire to understand more. So I would call myself a seeker. So from those
Yeah,
early age experiences, I sought to understand what what they were and to help have a better understanding. And ultimately, it's about having that relationship with God or source or spirit, because that is where I felt these messages, these synchronicities were occurring from. And so
mm,
it put me on a path of seeking to understand what is that and what is this human experience that we're having? What is the whole purpose of that? So I had a very inquiring mind, I suppose, as a
lovely.
result.
Okay, that's it's quite a beginning. Actually, I can understand as a child, you're not understanding everything, but you're feeling that something is different, happening. So, yes, uh, that was quite insightful. And to go next to our next question, I would like to know what do you think is the difference between mediumship and spirituality?
That's
How
also
would
a
you
good
define? Yeah.
question. So the two for me are different, mediumship and spirituality, although they can overlap and interchange. And so I'll explain that a little bit further. Spirituality to me is understanding that you are a spiritual being, that you are a divine being having this human experience. And as a divine
Right.
being, we are part of Source or as part of God, however we choose to see that. And then understanding the interconnectedness of all of that experience and seeking to have a relationship in that experience through mindfulness, through prayer, through contemplation, through seeking simply in our heart and soul. So the understanding that we come from something that's greater than ourselves,
Yeah.
and and that we ourselves are greater than what our physical body
Mm.
um, may may portray to us or may fool us into thinking. Now, mediumship is is a faculty or ability to be able to communicate with spirit. And mediumship has occurred throughout really the beginning of mankind. It's
Mm-hmm.
occurred. Um, it's the ability to communicate with the spirit world and to have that conversation. So to be able to ask and to receive the conversation very similar to what we're having, right?
Yeah.
Although
Yeah.
spirit, of course, speaks in a different language. So that to me is mediumship, and mediumship doesn't it isn't exclusive to spiritualism. It's not exclusive to any other sort of expression of it. And mediumship is natural because we are of spirit. Now, I say mediumship can exist without spirituality
Mm-hmm.
because someone can simply have that faculty, that ability, that developed ability to communicate with the spirit world, but they may be on an ego driven path
Yes.
and they may not be spiritual.
Yeah.
Um, although I will say that when you combine the two, when someone is working on their spiritual development and is very spiritual and they are a medium, then their gifts are able to unfold even more
Mm-hmm.
because it's born out of spirit in that way, spirituality, being of spirit. And then when they are working with their mediumship and it's through that sort of spiritual lens or they develop their soul and spirit, then it becomes much more powerful. It becomes more authentic. So when I say powerful, yes, the evidence or the information may be stronger because
Mm-hmm.
of that spiritual power, but also, oh, I lost my train of thought. So the spiritual power, mediumship becomes powerful, but it also becomes powerful because of the power of simply of the soul. So
Mm-hmm.
it has that ability to be more profound, to be more healing, because it's occurring much more through that faculty of the soul. And the soul has been developed. Those faculties of the soul have been developed. So, and someone can be spiritual and not have
Yes,
any mediumship abilities.
true.
However, I will say that if someone is truly spiritual and is walking that path, that absolutely, I will say, they are able to receive from spirit, from their soul,
Yes,
from their higher self, from their guides, from source, but they just may not be tuning into it or aware of
exactly.
it, of how it's occurring.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I will say that it happens naturally if one is spiritual, tuning into their intuition, um, because it is the faculty of the soul and that relationship with source.
Yes, absolutely. I absolutely agree on that point. I feel the abilities are there, but if you're spiritual, then it flows very naturally and deeply, through you. So yes,
Yeah,
100% I
yeah.
agree. Okay. So, see, some, like I was just telling you before we started recording, that a lot of people are now are very inclined towards mediumship, and they're getting attracted towards it. Uh, Especially I'm talking about India, that where a few years back also, when I used to say I'm a medium, then, or I used to take the word, say the word mediumship, then some people will be black. They will be looking at me. But right now, there's a big, massive change. People know, and they want to learn. They want to, take readings and all. So, if somebody wants to learn, then what are the most common blocks that a person faces? I would like to know from
Oh, that's a wonderful question too. So many good questions. So, I'm just going to touch upon about what you said about how there seems to be a greater awareness
you.
in
Yes.
your country, in India in particular. But I will say that there's a greater awareness of it
Globally.
everywhere now, even here in North America. And the last few years, there's been an explosion of
Wow.
of awareness. A lot of that I really do believe comes from media now, from like
Hmm.
having this exposure. And so I'm just going to go on a little bit of a of a rant, and then I'll veer back to your question. But we're having this exposure now,
Wow.
and of course, as we speak, we're putting energy out, and we have all these different forms of media that we're putting energy out, and that energy goes into the collective, and then
Hmm.
that collective, the collective civilization, it starts
Yeah.
to raise its consciousness, and then we start to have more awareness. And so that's
Yes.
really truly what's happening now. We can see it in real time, right?
Mhm.
When we look back and like,
Yes.
wow, look at this explosion of awareness. This is the raising of the collective consciousness, which is, of course, the the plan for our civilization, the plan for our incarnation. It's the divine plan, is how I should really be
Yes.
saying it. Um, but then, so your question is about um, how can one awaken to mediumship? Is that really so? The most important steps really is one, understanding that you can awaken to it, that because you are a soul having a human experience, that you have soul abilities, And then learning to slow down the mind, learning to quiet the mind so that all of that internal chatter is
Mm,
is gone, is diminished, because it's that mind, it's that monkey mind that prevents us
mm,
from hearing source. It prevents us from hearing our own soul or our guides. Um, and so learning to quieten that down through meditation and mindfulness, and carrying that
yeah.
mindfulness over into your daily practice. So by being aware that when you're doing the dishes or whatever, you're not ruminating about various things. So our minds are always in the past or in the future, but never
Mm,
in the present.
right.
And so learning to
Yeah.
be present is key, because that is where you get the synchronicities. That's where you get the
Mm,
intuition, the hunches, the
yeah.
insights, is in the present. If your energy, if your mind is anywhere else, you're not going to be able to receive. Um, and then common blocks are really simply fear,
Mm,
fear that it's bad, fear that um, because we grow up with this conditioning that
yeah.
it it's not right. We have fear around the ideas of mediumship and psychic abilities. We're told that it's corny or that it's woo. And so fear of not fitting in, fear of being ridiculed, fear of perhaps that you connect with something bad, or
Yes.
that you're doing something against God's will,
Mm,
right? A lot of people feel that they've
yes.
been programmed that it's against God's will, mediumship. And,
Mm,
and mediumship is the most natural thing, really, to have, because it's that development of your soul, which is really while we're all here.
yes.
So those fears hold us back. So learning to look at those fears, um, and to contemplate them, and to release them, and that's a
Mm,
process, right? Because we can only grow and let go of things that aren't serving us at a rate that our own level of consciousness is going to be able to handle,
mm,
right? So awakening is an unfoldment. It's not like something that happens overnight or in a short period of time, although I'm sure that there are those that have had these sudden massive transformations, but that's rare. And so really, if one's looking to develop that, then it's learning to be present, learning to ground their energy, because we want to clear our energy to make ourselves a clear channel for spirit to speak to us and through us. And it's through developing these spiritual practices that we're going to be able to develop mediumship. Now, mediumship also has some very structured things to be able to help, and that's one of them is sitting in the power, which is a more of an active meditation, but it strengthens the light of your soul, is what
mm,
it does. It brings more light into your soul, and with that light, then we're able to reach out into the other realms and have this experience, this phenomenon of mediumship in a better way, or a stronger way. So that is another development to be able to develop mediumship, another tool. It's a necessity, really. And then if someone
yes.
really wants to be able to develop further, then they would seek an area to be able to understand that through practice, which is a development
Yes.
circle, or having a teacher, or someone to work
Absolutely.
with, because it's through these exercises that we develop and that we strengthen it and we understand. It, it's it's an involved practice, right? To be able to
Absolutely.
develop.
Yeah.
Um and it's ongoing. So,
Yes.
but these are all really wonderful, wonderful things to be able to explore. And another block that people have is expectations. as to what's
Mm.
going to unfold and how it should unfold. And so learning to embrace this as really truly a journey
Yeah,
and not to have expectations, because those expectations do set up energetic blocks also,
exactly.
and they prevent perhaps the unfoldment that spirit wants for us, right? Because we're
Yes,
each on our own unique soul journey, and we're going to learn in a way naturally that's best for our own soul to grow.
absolutely. You've explained it so beautifully. Yes, I agree. My next thing that I want to ask you is see, being a medium, I feel, and I want to have your take on it, that mediumship is like, it's not just about connecting to the departed or bringing in some messages from them. It is much more than that. I think it's like the core is the healing that happens. So, what is your
Yeah.
take on that?
Well, I like what you said, and so I'm just going to expand upon that because the core
Yes.
of mediumship really is about healing. And when we approach it with that particular intention, then that in itself makes a very powerful intention. So we're doing it out of love. When we
Hmm.
seek to develop our mediumship to bring through messages from spirit for another individual, we're doing so out of love, or at least that should be the intention, because we're being of service. We're
Yes.
we're wanting to better the life of another, which we understand intuitively is connected with us because we're all connected. And we're allowing for that conduit for the spirit world to speak with us. And so the spirit world is also healing because we understand that they're souls and they're still on their soul journey. Um, and it's a really fascinating concept, I think, because as spirit works through us, the medium also is healed, and that
Yes.
healing comes through the medium and it comes to the sitter. And so it's each time spirit works through a medium, it touches them and it leaves a little bit of that. It imbues them as the medium, as the channel. And so the medium is healed. And so it really is, when taken the right way, because mediumship also um, can be used as a tool to sort of yield power or to impress others or
Hmm.
to make money.
Yeah.
Um, in an exorbitant way, or to just to be used in a sort of unscrupulous way. So um, I have to say that because I believe it does happen. Um,
Hmm.
and I see with this explosion of spirituality and with mediumship, th- I feel it's important to be able to talk about all aspects of it so that people can
Hmm.
be well rounded and have a better understanding of it. Mediumship at its core is about healing and
Yeah.
love and being of service. And when that is the approach, and that very essence of it is, it's tangible, it's able to be felt. And so that's a beautiful thing. And that can't be replicated
Yeah.
um, with someone that's just developed mediumship for showmanship, without the wrong purpose. It may look extraordinary, but it's the healing that we're looking for. And that can only be done with the right intentions, um,
Yes.
and holding that space. And that truly, that's the sort of experience that can't be faked. And when you feel the presence of spirit, when you feel that healing that's taking place, um, that can't be faked. And so
Yeah.
for anyone that is wondering, is this fake or is this real? If they were to have the experience, it should feel like there's a shift within them, that it's tangible. That's what I believe anyway. Um, And so the healing is the goal, and it really is a beautiful thing to be able to be a part of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, Actually, just in the last what you said, I want to expand on that because I know that you teach, and I'm also teaching a lot of students, most of the students, I would say, in the initial days would ask me how do I know that I'm actually connected, you know? And you were just talking about that. That is it my mind talking? Is it like I'm
Yeah, so
imagining things? Or
when
so what do you say
someone is
about that?
connected, so the question is that you want to know if someone's asking themselves, how do they know if they're connected?
Yes.
So when we work our development practices like meditation and grounding and sitting for spirit, then we start to
Yeah.
have a good understanding of how we feel, how we, as an individual, as a soul, we have an understanding of what we are in essence. And
Mm,
so, and how our mind might sound. So we have a good understanding of ourself because we are the instrument when we
mm,
work with mediumship. And
yeah.
so through those practices, we are able to sense what is not of ourself.
Yeah.
So if we know that it's not of ourself, then it comes from spirit. It's coming from something beyond ourselves. And how we connect with that or how we may be receiving, it's starting to, we would understand through our own spiritual work and unfoldment. How are we getting that connection? Are we, are we feeling? Are we seeing? Are we hearing? Do we know? And then learning to work with how we're receiving. So we call that when our development, our clairs,
Yes.
I call them our soul senses, but there are psychic senses. And so by learning to understand what your psychic senses are and how they work,
Mm,
then you start to have an idea of how to trust. You start to trust what you're getting. And so
yeah.
all these are steps. And the more that we trust that, hey, that what I just got was not from me, therefore it comes from spirit,
Yes.
um, then we develop that trust. And so it's that also is an active part, trusting the
Mm,
spirit world, learning to trust yourself. And so it is a process. But when we understand our own energy, we'll know the different energy that may be impressed upon us
mm,
when we're receiving. And so you'll have a sense or a feeling is all I can is the best way that I'd be able to explain that. It happens in an altered state. And
mm,
so you're not in your regular talking state.
mm,
Um, but it's the learning to get into that state of mind where you're receiving and you're understanding, hey, this is coming from beyond my own self, my own mind. I'm receiving, I am the instrument. And which is why development circles are so beneficial because you get
yes.
that practice in and then you
Mm,
start to really understand how it works. But people can do that on their own, like by
mm,
journaling, by writing down your insights. You strengthen that relationship with your soul and with spirit.
mm,
Because people say, "Hey, I don't have any way to develop. I don't know. Um, I don't have a development circle, or I can't afford classes." But we all are able to develop this faculty by uh, by using these spiritual practices, and journaling is one of them. So writing
yes.
down your insights, uh, posing a question to spirits, and then seeing what response that you get.
Yeah.
Um, journaling dreams. All
Mm,
these are going to strengthen your trust in your spiritual self and your spiritual abilities. And then you work on developing your relationship with the spirit world, which again comes through practice, through making it part of your daily life, really, ultimately.
absolutely.
Um, right?
Yes.
Spiritualizing your life, and then you start to trust the experience that you're having. So that's what I would how I'd recommend. And then people, you know, if they're wanting to learn more, they may they may seek out friends or family to maybe perhaps practice with if they can't find a development circle. Um, that's it. It's all part of the work. But it's a process. And so if someone
Yes.
chooses to undertake it, developing that mediumship faculty, knowing that it takes, um, well, it's never ending, and it's being of service, it's being of love, and
Yeah.
and then choosing to be that conduit for the spirit world. It's through those intentions that it's going to develop, and then to trust it that it will unfold.
Yes. Absolutely. Wonderful. And that'll bring me, in the end, I would like to ask, what are your thoughts on reincarnation? Because this is, again, one topic that I get from a lot of people. They keep asking, what do you think about reincarnation? Like, just to
I'm
give you
sorry,
a
think
heads
about
up
what one?
about reincarnation.
Oh, reincarnation. Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's a big topic, so I'm going to cover that as um sort of clearly as I can. So, spiritualism or spiritualists won't talk about reincarnation sort of um from the pulpit, from the church, because they it's it can't be validated per se. So when we talk
Yes.
about mediumship being developed, we're talking about evidential mediumship, and we're talking about um, being able to give evidence of that proof of life, of that continuation of that soul as they move from the physical world. So I'm talking from the lens of spiritualism. However, reincarnation, many spiritualists do believe in reincarnation. Um, but the concept of is that we live more than one lifetime.
Yes.
I do believe that we live more than one lifetime. There also is different concepts as to how these lifetimes occur. Do they happen in sequential order? Like, so do we have
Mm.
past lives and then we're born again? Or do they happen sort of at the same time simultaneously in multiple dimensions, and we are having many different
Parallel.
experiences at one time and we integrate them? So I I feel that we do have different experiences, different soul experiences that are happening on multiple level. But I
Mm.
personally also do believe myself that we reincarnate, that we have a soul that reincarnates in different lifetimes, um, and that we grow each time, and we will have karma as a result of these lifetimes
Yes.
and dharma, and that we continue to evolve through these soul experiences, through these incarnations, and that is how we learn and grow. That's my thoughts on reincarnation. Um, I do believe we have wisdom to be able to access from previous lifetimes.
Hmm.
And I do believe also at the same time that we may be having a multi-dimensional experience. Um, so when we start, because I mean, if we think about it, that time is a construct, and it starts
Mm.
to throw in different ideas into that. But I will say that I do personally believe that we incarnate and that we have these experiences and that we pass and that we may incarnate again. And I believe that there's been enough evidence to sort of give proof through the recollections of individuals that there's something
Yes.
has occurred. Uh, so I do believe that there is evidence around that. But that's where the argument comes, is to be able to give evidence to say that it's factual. But I believe that many of the things that we have experienced in our current life comes from past life experiences. So fears,
Yes.
phobias, and gifts.
Yes.
Um, and so that's how I believe that our soul grows, is through this continual process.
True, true. I am of the same opinion, and definitely I feel that we reincarnate, and I not just like as a spiritual person or a medium, like through my teachings, whatever I've learned when I've grown up, that yes, there are past lives that we. It's because the spirit is eternal; it just goes and comes back. So this is what I also feel.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. And before we end this podcast, I would like some, words of wisdom you can say, or some tips for the developing mediums.
Okay. Um, so if someone is developing, or words of wisdom, I am going to say quite simply to stay in your heart. And as you stay in your heart, that in
Beautiful.
itself is a spiritual connection, and that connection will grow. And so if someone is seeking to develop mediumship and psychic intuitive abilities, then to allow themselves just to stay in love, to stay in their heart, and to understand that it is a journey of unfoldment, and that it's a beautiful one too. Don't rush
Yes.
the journey. Um, it is unfolds in ways that you cannot predict, that you may not be able to imagine. And so by keeping an open mind as to how you may develop and how you may be of service is important, because what you have in mind, that may be entirely different than what God or source or the divine great spirit has in mind for you. So being open minded as to how it works. Um, but if you're to hold the idea, the concept that we're all connected, and that we all come from source, we all
Yeah.
come from something that's greater than ourselves, then by staying in your heart, you're going to be able to be navigated, and and to put your intentions out there, to allow to
Yes.
see what unfolds, because you'll get synchronicities, things will occur, people will come into your life, things will pass in front of your eyes on the screen, and so you'll be guided. And I think that's key, is to just have faith also that you're going to be guided on this journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so very much, Lorraine. It has been
Thank
a
you for having
wonderful,
me.
having such, sharing your experiences, your knowledge, your wisdom with us. And it is really useful. I am sure that people are going to gain something out of this, out of your experiences and your knowledge. So thank you again for being with us. And I feel we'll meet again, and probably we'll do some other podcasts as well in future.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I would love to meet again, because I love talking with you. And if it touches one person, then the work is being fulfilled, because as we touch
Yes,
one by one, we enlighten and we spread the light out into the world. And so
beautiful.
thank
Yes,
you for allowing this to happen, Pearl, because you're spreading the light. So I
thank
wish
you.
you very many blessings, and may spirit be with you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you.